Hello, hello students. I'm not sure what happened in the last video. It stopped recording, but we're back here. So we have categories and we have frequencies. So as we did in class, the first category is going to be 10 to under 20. Now just to explain, we could go 10 to 19, 20 to 29. Just as we're going 10 to under 30. I prefer this process because it's going to work for numbers that are going to have decimal places, whereas this one only works for whole numbers. Because this is whole numbers, this is sufficient, but this works for, as I've said, whole numbers and decimal numbers. If we had a number in the data set of like 19.5, technically it doesn't go here 10 to 19, and it wouldn't go here 20 to 29. So a value like 19.5 is homeless. Whereas in this naming method, where we have 10 to under 20, any value under 20, greater than 10 of course, would fit in that class. So that's why I prefer this naming process here. So let's continue with that. 30 to under 40, 40 to under 50, 50, and then 60 to under 70. Oops, one more. 70 to under 80. And then because this data is sorted already in order, it's easier to count. We have 2 in the first 2 classes. We have 4. We have 7 in the 40s. And we have 2, 4, and then 4 at the end. What we're going to do here is calculate a total. We can do that by doing this auto sum. And there we are, 25. And we know we have 25 pieces of data because if we highlight all of our data, look at the bottom right of your Excel, you have a count of 25, I should say. So we know that this number here is correct. I'm just going to bold that and bold our titles as well. Now make sure that when you're doing these categories, you are not putting a column in between, because sometimes when these columns are small, it looks like it goes over 2 columns, but it doesn't. There's nothing in this column, even though the first column is going over the space of that second column. We could start writing in here, and then it's obvious that there's nothing, that column was empty. So make sure that your categories and your frequencies are side by side. If you want to make a column longer or smaller, we can just drag it, or go right here in between those 2 columns, double click, and the column will extend to the best fit. So now, following the exercise, we are question 2. We're going to create a histogram. In order to create a histogram, we highlight the categories and the frequencies. We don't include totals. We're going to insert a column graph. There is our column graph. Technically, this is not a histogram. In order to make it a histogram, we've got to remove the gap between those columns. So right-click on any of those columns, format data series, and change that to 0%. Press enter, and there we go. So now this is a histogram. So we could call this histogram. If I can spell correctly, histogram. We like data labels, so let's right-click on one of the columns, add data labels. There we go. We can right or left-click on those data labels, and maybe we want them bigger, or we want them bolded, or we want them red. There's the data labels. Change the name of the graph, we've done. Change the type of graph to a bar graph. So we're going to change this. If you click in the graph, we can go to Design, and we can change chart type. It's also accessible if you right click and go here, change chart type. We're going to change this to a bar graph. So basically that's the difference between a column graph and a bar graph. Column straight up, bar graphs going across. But here is our bar graph. What we want to do, because this is, I'll show you a similarity between a histogram and that stem plot, is if we click on, left click on the classes, the categories in the graph. So then right click and, format axes. And then near the bottom, categories in reverse order. Basically now it's putting 10 to under 20 on top, 20 to under 30 near the bottom. So what I'm going to do is minimize this screen. Let's do it like that. There is our histogram over there, and right back here is our stem plot display. Now, if we wanted to, we could go back to the stem plot display, make this red, for example, and then we could, if we can draw nice and straight, like we did in class, we can put columns. Oops, I'm not drawing very good at all. Maybe draw a little neater than I am. But once we do this, especially when our histogram is horizontal and going in the same order, it looks identical. We know that there's two pieces of data in the first class and in the second class, and then we can have the labels here as well. So now it has the same shape. The histogram and the stem leaf or stem plot display have the same shape. The benefit of a stem plot is that we know precisely what the values are in each category. We know that there's a 11 and a 19. In the histogram, we know that there's two values in the 10 to under 20 category, but simply looking at that histogram, we don't know what those values are. We know there's 7 values in the 40 to under 50 category, but looking simply or solely at the histogram, we do not know what those values are. They could all be 41s, or they could all be 49s. The stem leaf display, we keep the values, and it still has a shape. So there's some more summary that we can do with that histogram. With the stem plot display. Okay, let's go back to our histogram. So we've done step 2. Now what I want to do is go into sheet 1. And what we're going to do here is create a column graph. So highlight all your data, insert column graph. We're not going to put these columns together because there's some separation between these the classes, the categories. But what we will do is we will add a data label. We can change the name of this. All you have to do to change the name of the title is click on it and then start typing. And if you look up into your edit bar up here, that's where we are typing. So that could be favorite restaurants. And there we go, press enter. There we go. Change the color of one of the bars, double click on it. We can change colors here. Well, that's going to change all the colors. Right click, fill, we can make that red, for example. Fitting that Wendy's is red. Okay. Now what I want to do with second part, or question 4, is to insert a pie chart. So highlight your data, pie chart. There's our pie chart. We're going to make this a little bigger so we can work with it a little better. What we're going to do with this one is add data labels. And then we're going to go back and actually format the data labels. We're going to put in the category name, the value, and the leader lines. And let's put this outside. That just moves the naming to the outside of the pie chart. We don't need the legend. And now we can drag these away. And the leader lines, basically what connects the actual legend to the pie chart. The benefit of this is that it allows this to be printed. If it is printed in black and white, you know, we can still make sense of what each section of the pie represents. So let's go back and format data labels. Let's change it to percentage and take out values. Now we know that Burger King accounts for 8%. Change the color of one pie section, double click. There we go, and we can make that red, for example. Rename the pie chart, click on there. Basically, this could be favorite restaurants, just like that. Double click on one of the sections of the pie, take it out. Looks like Pac-Man now. Okay, we're going to go into, last few minutes, go into sheet 2. We have the Toronto Raptors season wins. What we want to do is create a line graph. So highlight season and wins all the way down to 2019. Insert line graph. This one here, we want that first one. Sometimes it gives us this blue line. Let's just click on that and delete. Let's make this a little bigger so we can work with it. And for whatever reason, sometimes, most of the time, it gives us the number of years in sequence. So what we want to do is click on the graph, select data, edit the horizontal, and from here, highlight from 1995 to 2019. Press OK. OK again, and there's our years. Get rid of the legends. We can rename it. Raptors wins per season, for example. We can highlight perhaps, you know, a good year, maybe the year you're born. So how old is everybody? Let's go there. Double click on one of those points, and then we can add data labels, and there's 47. We want that bigger. Click on that, bold it, make it bigger, make it red, and there we go. If we want to, let's do this, click on the graph. Under design, we can create a quick layout because we want axes titles for the horizontal or for the vertical column. So we can click on that first one. It's going to bring back our legends, which we can just delete. But here, click on the axes title and just type in wins, for example, and then it'll be replaced. We want it bigger, click on it, you know, increase it, change it to red, bold it, for example, and make it bigger, and there we go. That is what we did in Thursday's class.